right?
Very quick.
Love that. Hi, everyone. What's going on? Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, before we get started, I definitely think there needs to be a bit of a song. Don't you guys think? Yes? Yes? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, this is exciting because we currently here have a star of what I think is the most well-written TV series to have ever been written on in the history of TV. Breaking Bad. That was wow.
It's a big wow. Yeah,
It's a
great
big
show.
Wow, great show. I've heard that you are quite into yoga.
I love yoga.
You love
yeah.
yoga, yeah. So the character of Gus Fring, obviously, when I think of Gus Fring, I don't think yoga. How was that a very challenging role for you?
Well, I give myself challenges. About 10 years ago, I started to ask myself what I wanted. Kind of important to know what you want, not only in your own life, but also in your professions, your career. What is your intention for your lives? If you plant that seed, then you're moving in a direction that joins you and connects you not only to the universe, but to everyone else. So with Gus, I wanted to give myself, the exercise I started to give myself years ago was to give myself a challenge, a goal for each character I played. And to make it simple, with Gus, I wanted to do nothing. I wanted to be able to, I'm an actor who comes from the Broadway stage, who's used to throwing everything out there so it gets to the back row. Actors, I believe, love to act. That's what we like to do. We like the attention to be on us. And so with Gustavo Fring, I wanted to just be a listener, an observer, and my yoga practice helped me achieve that. Because in yoga, in America, we think it's about getting a good body, but yoga really is about breathing. It's about listening to your own breath, which allows you to go inside and center yourself. So no matter what, if you're able to get your head behind your foot behind your head, or even your hands to the floor, it doesn't really matter. It really is about the journey of listening to your own breath and connecting with your own energy.
I love. I'm a certified yoga teacher outside of this, so I love that. I love that. That's amazing. So
It's a compliment.
Okay.
Just don't cross the line.
So, and that is something I did notice about Gus. Like, he had this incredible calmness about him all the time. It was terrifying. It was utterly terrifying. Is that kind of how you felt about him too?
Well, I didn't think when I was doing what I was doing that it was terrifying. I enjoy sort of calming my own spirit enough to take in someone else's and leave space for their energy to speak to me. We often think that we just speak with our words, but most often we speak with our attitude, with our eyes, with our physicality. So, no, I thought he was just someone who was giving another person his complete attention. But that can be very threatening to certain people because we're not used to the practice of really taking each other in. We do 5 things with the phone, with this, with that, and we think we're expressing ourselves, but we're not really giving ourselves completely to one thing. So I extend that to say be careful how you use the word and the action of multitasking, because if you're really here, be here now. Be present. What's so frightening about that? It's something that needs to be practiced in a world where everything is moving very quickly, and our world expects us to be able to do 5 things at once, and we're proud of it. Well, I'm trying to give that up and just do one thing at one time and do it well.
Don't ever try to run a convention. Awesome. I think there's some audience members that would have some questions for you. So, hands. Oh, you got up there pretty quick. Yeah.
Oh, come and give it to me. You guys are so great. No, truly, this is like the best birthday ever because I came in this morning really early and got a wonderful birthday song from the folks on the line. Thank you, darling. Hold on.
People, people all over the con have been signing it for 2 days for you.
Thank you. She said people all over the con have been signing it for 2 days for me. I'm in great appreciation. Someone looked at me yesterday. A guy came up and said, if I got my neck done up so you could cut my throat, would you? And have it look really real? Would that be okay? And I said certainly. And why not? And he went and got this really great makeup job. And his neck looked really great, and he came to the photo op, and I cut his throat, and it's really a fantastic photo, and he had really clear eyes and was really wonderful and serious and committed. When you commit to something in life, you get things done, but with that commitment, you also commit to sacrificing something to be able to get something else. Okay, so yeah, some of his blood rubbed off on my shirt. Probably rubbed off on his hands and other people he was around. Maybe that was his sacrifice and mine. But he got a great, really, really great photograph. But it was his mom who turned to me as she was walking away and said, you're really great with your fans. And I didn't get a chance to, I said thank you. And I thought about it last night. And, I love what I do. And most of the folks who come to the con are having fun. And they're enjoying themselves, and they're loving what they're doing. So all that to say, it's been a real pleasure to have this whole room sing happy birthday to me, and it's been a real honor to be here at this particular con having fun with you.
I think I saw a few. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
She asked about Community, how it was to work with Dan Harmon, and what the experience was like to be on that show. It was fun. I was on my way to do Once Upon a Time up in Vancouver. Yeah, big hand for Once Upon a Time. We love that show. And I had, I had promised one of my children that I would meet her, try to get her to come with me, as I don't see the kids very much. And so my 15-year-old daughter met with me, and I said, I have this one day on the way to Once Upon a Time. Come with me. So she came. And she had been used to being on the set of Breaking Bad, used to be on the set of Revolution, and had not experienced Community. I got in at 12 at night. They sent my lines to me. I was in every single scene. I learned them. Went there in the morning, and Chevy Chase, who I've been familiar with and known for a bunch of years, casually came on the set, and everyone came out. And I invited my daughter in to come after makeup and check out the rehearsal. She did. And so I stood there while everyone had little pieces of paper in their hand reading their lines, and she looked at me and she said, Papa, no one knows their lines. And I said, right, well, it doesn't appear that way. No. Well, she said, you got in at midnight, you got your script at midnight, you got up at 6, and you know all your lines. I said, yeah. She said, well, I don't know about this. So I explained to her these are all comedians and they riff and they're spontaneous. They may not need to know their lines. And so we did the first rehearsal and we got through it, and she looked at me and she said, I'm going to go back to the trailer. I'm going to go do my homework. And I said, why? She said, this is so random. I had fun with those guys, you know what I mean? And I love the whole cast. They're really fun people. They do a different kind of work than I do in my dramas. But you fall in, you connect with the energy that's there, and they had a great show. Dan is particularly I like a lot. After I left there, he had the war with Chevy and all that stuff went down. But they're great folks, and they do a great show. I've always wanted to do a show where I could be sort of like, I don't know, for lack of a better way to say it, an action hero. I've always wanted, I love riding horses, haven't ridden in a bunch of years. I love the Westerns. I grew up on Westerns. I have a daughter named Shane because I love that particular movie, which is so fantastic. So when this opportunity came up, I wanted to take it because it's sort of the modern day Western. That is very, if you follow my career, there's sort of a trajectory in a sense that I pick things that have some kind of relevance. And I think Revolution, the favorite part to me has been that it has a relevance on all of our lives. In a world without power, what would we do? We're taking pictures and on the phone and on computers. Well, what if we had none of that? How would we survive? And so the what if question of Revolution has been important to me because I am that survivor in Revolution. No matter what, my character Tom Neville is the guy who's going to survive, and if you're behind him, you're probably in good shape. But if you're in front of him and in his way, you're probably in not such good shape. But I've enjoyed the premise of the show. I hope it gets stronger, and I hope that they're able to cultivate it on a little bit of a deeper level. But I've enjoyed the action. I've enjoyed seeing if I could really hang with the physicality in 100-degree heat in Atlanta when we shot the pilot in all wool. Can I make it? Am I going to faint? Am I going to die? The horse is sweating as much as I am, and when you're on a horse that's sweating that much, you're like in this round ball of heat. Can I survive the fight scenes with younger men who are probably more physical than I am? This is where the yoga comes in and the running comes in. And will I have the ability to be able to live and survive and thrive and give a good performance in this world? I love the show. I hope we're able to stay on a little longer. I think in many ways it was. I think Vince is a very thoughtful writer. I think that he had determined somewhere in the first or second season that, and maybe even before he started, that this journey of Walter White would be probably around 5 years, 5 seasons. It's very Shakespearean. I don't know if he meant it to be, but I think knowing Vince, just from the time that I work with him, he is not the most thought-out guy. He's not that nerdy thought-out guy. He leaves room for all of the players to have a word about what they think about the show, but he is specific, and he does have ideas, and he writes these ideas well. I think he is someone who learned it well in his early career and is open. I think Vince as being one of the truest director writers that I've ever worked with, because he's true to himself, he has no ego, and he really wants the best for the whole product, the whole piece. Some writers lose sight of where they're going, but it's what we are exposed to. So when he sat down and wrote this, I don't think he was thinking to be Brechtian or Freudian or Shakespearean, but it's what we're exposed to. So I was exposed in my younger life to opera. My mother was an opera singer. My father was a stage technician from Italy. I was exposed to culture, many different cultures, and that gets inside of us. So I imagine, Vince, he's from Virginia. He's a Southern boy. I can't see him reciting Shakespeare, but I think he is very clued in to the human tragedy in life, and in plays and in theater. So he's well versed. It's all of those things that we put into our consciousness that comes back and resounds for us later. So all of the things that I have lived my whole life came back through Gus. The graceful attitude, the calm demeanor, the nice clothes, the attention, putting my attention someplace else other than myself. I didn't have to cultivate that while I was working on it. It was an idea that came to me. The idea for Gus, for me, and I imagine it to be the same for Vince, was he wrote a line that inspired me. It was hiding in plain sight. I thought, what a thought. What an idea. You meet people every day, and you don't know, you think you meet them and you talk for 5 minutes, you think you know who they are, right? Some of us, you can read everything on my sleeve, man. I'm an emotional guy. I didn't want Gus to be that way. Other people, you look at and you go, wow, maybe there's a double life there. Maybe they're doing something else. And that's what intrigued me about Gus. I'm sure Vince had something like that for him with the Walter White character. I'm sure Walter White's a part of him. I'm sure he always wanted to, maybe Vince probably wanted to be the strong guy, the badass. Probably he desired that. So many writers and actors, we work through our deficiencies through what we do, and I can only imagine that for Vince as well. But I think in the end, that's kind of brilliant. Someone told me once that acting was a way of healing your personality. And I went, wow, what an interesting thing. I get to heal my personality through what I do. I played a lot of different characters who've been, the polite word, I think Stephanie said, he's very complicated, your character. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the proper way to say it. Yeah, so crazy people get healed on television and in films, and we as actors, if we're doing it properly, shouldn't hurt ourselves, but should have the ability to see ourselves. And we can see what we don't want to be, and we can see what we want to be, and it might even have the ability to give us clarity about who we really are.
Hi. So first off, I think I have to tell you that my mom loves you. She made me stay up till 6 in the morning, just finishing like the 3rd season. So just so you know. Anyways, it's pretty clear to me that you have amazing taste in television. So what I'm wondering is if there are any shows that you think that people who enjoyed Breaking Bad and Revolution and Once Upon a Time, any TV shows that you think we should check out other than that.
Well, you know, I hate to admit it, I'm not a big TV watcher. Hell on Wheels is a show you should really watch. I think there's some truth in that show. I think Anson Mount's performance is really wonderful. True Detective, this new detective show, I think you should really watch. I think it's a pretty amazing show. I haven't kept up as much as I should, but those are just to name a few. You know, look for things that are off the beaten path that have the ability to, you know, stimulate you. Not only in the violent sense of what many television shows are, because many shows exemplify explosions and don't really cultivate the intelligence of their audience or the intelligence that the audience might have. So in honoring, you know, what you want, it's to watch shows that cultivate your thinking and allow you to, in many ways, be true to yourself and your intelligence. Things that are smart and interesting that possibly may or may not resemble real life. But we are all faced with real life challenges that we'd like to be able to see characters that we relate to move through those challenges and be winners, be successful, learn something from that. So to me, that's what entertainment should be. It should be part education, it should be part entertainment, but it should also be uplifting on some levels and can be coarse and tragic, but should be realistic in its end, so that we have a relationship to it that that might be many-tiered and many-leveled. There's a girl over there with her hand up. She's dying to say something. Thank you. Awesome. It's good to see you again. Thank you for sharing.
Way over there. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a great question. Wow, very astute. Well, again, I just talked about challenges that some of us may have in our lives, and my life has not been short of some of those challenges. So I'll talk about them. You know, I have 4 daughters, and maybe about 5 years ago, the advent of the big star came around. I certainly love what I do and feel like I have talent in doing it. But when you finish doing one job as an actor, you never know if you're going to work again. So there's always this little bit of insecurity. And I had I had years where I just went bankrupt. And I'm looking at these children, and I'm thinking, how will I ever survive this? My responsibility now is to my family. So that fighting spirit did live on, not without a huge depression that came beforehand, and someone giving me a book. Dodge Bingham gave me a book called Find the Cheese. Now, it's a book about finding the cheese. It has little mice on the front. So I'm at my desk. I'm really depressed. I got no work. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm selling my house. I eventually lost that house to bankruptcy. And I opened this book, which he gave me on my birthday. And it was this whole story about what it is to be a man. A man provides. And this is all before Gus Fring. And I read this book, and I realized my job was to find the cheese, to find the energy, to find the chi, to recreate myself no matter what it took, to figure this out, and not to be in the depression zone, but to be in the positive zone, that this is a way for me to remake myself and to rebuild the hope that I'd lost and the character that I knew was always inside me. So when I got to play Gus, all of that came back to me because I was not out of the woods. I'm just getting out of the woods. And I thought to myself, it was so real for me to say those words, a man provides. Ultimately, Gus to me was the black and white of it. The success of Gus is that I did not feel that Gus was good, bad, or evil. He was someone that was serving up a business. The reason why he didn't respect Walt was because Walt hung out with people that could not be trusted. But it didn't matter if Gus was selling toilet paper or meth or, grain alcohol. He was doing it well, and he was caring for a family of people. The reason he killed Victor was because Victor exposed the family, and that would take everybody down. So he developed Max as a chemist, and all the other chemists, granted they worked for him eventually. A lot of that was my through line, my own strength coming back to me. I come here today not to make money off your autographs and your signatures, but to have the experience, to pass on sort of what I may have learned, the mistakes I may have made. And again, that fighting spirit, to really speak to your question, is alive in me because I realize more than ever, having been bankrupt, having lost everything, having come back, having been through divorce, having not let that crush me, being able to make my ex-wife a friend, and having 4 loving children, and having all of you share all this love with me, it's very clear to me. It's not about the dollars. It's not about what I'm going to leave the world with in terms of, it's really about this. It's about presence. It's about love. It's about interaction. So as long as I'm willing to share my deepest self without embarrassment with folks, then I'm on the right track, because I'm not caught in my ego thinking, yeah, I'm like really important and I really have something to say, because I really don't.
I'm never going to be able to top this panel. This is amazing. This is amazing. Yes, you right there.
First off, I want to say congratulations on getting your star for the Hollywood Walk.
Yeah!
What was going through your mind when you first read the script that you were going to cut the guys through?
I was thinking, how will I ever do this? This is a horrific and very, it's a reprehensible act. And how will I not only spare the audience from hating me, because that's the first time that Gus took action on his own, by his own hand. How will the audience ever understand that? But how will I recover? I did a take with Jeremiah Bitsu, who played Victor, and where you could visibly see my pain for having to do this, because I liked him. And I made that choice. In life, we make choices. If we don't choose, it'll be chosen for us. This is the power of intention. is to ask yourself questions. It took me a long time to realize this. And make a choice about what you want to do and how you want to carry out your life, what kind of life you want to have. Put that in the universe. What you think grows. Universe hears it and sees it immediately. And that moment was hard for me because since then, Erin Gray told me a story about a wonderful actor who I worked with in a film called Twilight. And he said to her that the body doesn't know the difference. Like when you cut someone's throat on screen, as an actor, you're physically doing it. You shoot someone, you're physically doing it. You're fighting, it's happening. How do you let that go? So what went through my mind was, how will I ever clear my psyche of doing this? And you see a lot of actors go out in the world and they do things that are maybe illegal or drive too fast, or they're in this character mode that they think they're invincible. I'm just doing something real for a purpose. I'm very tempted to come to Comic-Cons and just be Gus. What do you want? No. Come here. Give me the money. I'll sign the goddamn thing. Come on. But would that be any fun? And a lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh gosh, you're so different than Gus," but they're still shaking. And then I give them the Gus look, and it's like puts them out. Again, I don't want to be Gus all the time. He's very different than me. What went through my mind was, how will I get through this? How will I survive it? But if you know Harold Pinter, do you know Harold Pinter? I love his work as a playwright. He says something. There's space. He leaves space. So that first 10 minutes of Box Cutter was like a Harold Pinter play to me. To say nothing was such a beautiful exercise. To inform the audience and my scene partners what my intention was. Do you think they got it? I think so. Without any words, was a phenomenal experience. Thanks for your great question.
You, sir, up there.
When you first got the role of Gus Fring, did you know Vince Gilligan, or did you audition, and did you even know what you were going to get into?
No, very much like J.J. Abrams, Vince didn't give me the script, and neither did J.J. Abrams. He never gives an actor the script, and actors hate him for it, because I was taught that there's no small parts, and early in my career I'd go through the script and see how many pages I'm on, and now you don't even get a script. You get 2 pages that give you some lines for the character, and how do you build on that? I had to audition for Breaking Bad. I had to go to Sharon Bialy's office. I had turned them down 3 times. Just turned them down they asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I said, no, I don't want to do any more guest spots. And then when I said yes, the ultimate smack in the face was, okay, now go down to the casting office, casting director, and read for it. I said, what? You gotta be kidding me. And so it's a good ego story, because, look, I don't want to audition anymore for anything. It's like, why would I want to do that? And it changed my tune, because why not? Like, auditioning is a way of working that day. I have a whole different attitude. Sure, I'll read for anybody. I'll go on tape. No, JJ's not going to be there? Not a problem. Vince is not a problem. That's my moment to cultivate and do what I do best. And if I take it seriously, it'll work. So I had to go into Sharon's office, and I had to read for her. And I walked in, and I was silent. And she looked at me. Oh, this is not the regular, usual Giancarlo. I was just stared at her. She got a little intimidated. And she said, well, do you have any questions? And I just looked at her. And she was a little spooked, because she didn't know me like that. But I wasn't messing around. And she rolled the camera, and I did my stuff, and I looked at her, and I walked out. And she called my manager, and she said, wow, he did a great reading, but is he okay? I got the job, right?
All right, we got time for one more question. You right there in the blue.
Yeah, knowing them, I probably would. I'm really on the fence. This is a question that's been coming up. I love Vince very much. I love Aaron. I had a great time with Brian, and I certainly love all the writers of the show and the filmmakers who make it. The biggest thing for me is how do we revisit? You know, I've already told them I'd be interested. But as I said to them in the beginning of Breaking Bad, when they said, would you do a guest spot, I said, I'll do one. Then they asked for another, and I said, okay, I'll do another. And then they said to me, would you come back next season and do a few? And I said, no. I said, I want to be with a family of filmmakers. I want to work every day. I want to work to create this character. I see a vision for the character that I want to cultivate with the family of filmmakers that's available, including Vince. And they came back the next season and said, well, we'll offer you 7. I said, no. And they said, well, what about 11? And I said, no. And they said, well, we only do 13. So finally I said yes. So for Saul, I don't know if it would be satisfying for me, but I do think of my fans to go back and just do 1 or 2. The other thing is I think it's sort of like when Spike Lee asked me to do the Right Thing 2, like Brooklyn Summer is going to be the sequel to Do the Right Thing, and you should come back as Bugging Out 20 years later. And his idea that Bugging Out's a bum on the street or a crack addict now, or so I was like, really? I said that character that happens to be one of the 100 best movies of all time. I'm on that list. Thank you. And also Usual Suspects. I'm on that list. So. What I'm saying is I'd have to really search my soul in deep meditation and prayer to see if I would go back, because those iconic characters and imagery that live within us, that lives within my vision and the vision of all the creators of it, stands out to me. And I don't want to go back and take anything away from that. I would not want to disappoint in, rendering that character real again in some other form. But I'm unsure that I want to go back and do that. Because now we have a vision of that person that many of you know his name better than mine. And maybe I should just leave it at that.
Thank you very much for joining us today. That is it, guys, for now. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Let's have one more round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much.